Thank you very much for being here. We are here today to mark the, I guess it's not a swearing in, it is the inauguration, I guess we'll say, of the bill that passed the legislature this year. We want to thank specifically Governor Brewer, County Attorney Bill Montgomery, and Cindy McCain for their diligent work in crafting a task force that produced this bill that passed the legislature and goes into effect today. And we're very excited about that at Phoenix. Obviously, we tried to piggyback on their efforts to make sure that we had some of the toughest laws in the country, both at the city of Phoenix and in the state of Arizona. We want to be a model on this issue for states around the country. People have put the focus a little bit, and the impetus for this a little bit, on the Super Bowl. Frankly, that has not been the focus of our task force, nor do I think it should be the focus of the bill. This is to make sure that human trafficking isn't acceptable at any time, at any place, anywhere in the state of Arizona. Frankly, for those of you who may have heard the statistics, 100,000 women are trafficked each year in the United States, and it is the second biggest organized crime in the world. When I started this endeavor, I did not, I think most people would expect drug trafficking being number one, but I was very surprised that this is number two. I think they said that 26 million people a year are trafficked. It's just a horrifying statistic for any of you who have attended our committees or subcommittees. You know some of the terrible stories. You're going to hear from a survivor in a minute. We at Phoenix have made an emphasis of fighting human trafficking. We have a large vice squad. We place a lot of emphasis on it, but we can do more, and we knew we could do more. And we have crafted a plan that passed the city council this spring, and we're very excited about that. And again, not just for the run-up to the Super Bowl, but beyond. If you know anything about human trafficking, you know that good transportation, great weather, lots of conferences and big events, this sort of thing breeds this kind of activity. Unfortunately, the things I mentioned are positives in every other realm except this one. And so that's a source of frustration. Frankly, when you hear the stories, and you're going to hear, I think, at least one today, you'll understand the importance of this task force. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Bennett. She is the governor's Human Services Policy Advisor. She helped craft this bill, and we're very proud to have her, and she's going to talk a little bit about the history and how this came into being. Jamie?
Thank you. In 2013, Governor Brewer convened a task force on human trafficking that was actually co-chaired by Cindy McCain and Gil Arantia, the director of the Arizona Department of Homeland Security. The task force was comprised of state legislators, 2 county attorneys, prosecutors, representatives from law enforcement, and from nonprofit organizations that serve victims of human trafficking. The task force met over several months and heard from numerous subject matter experts from the local, state, and national level, and developed specific recommendations about how Arizona could strengthen its laws, administrative practice, and law enforcement training. Last year, Governor Brewer made implementing those recommendations a priority, and we worked very closely with stakeholders and legislators in developing House Bill 2454, which goes into effect today. The legislation increases penalties against traffickers, creates an affirmative defense for victims of sex trafficking. It requires licensed massage therapists and escort services to display their license numbers in any advertisements and keep on record the age of anyone that's depicted in an advertisement, and makes advertising a minor in any of those advertisements a Class 2 felony if an image of the minor is included. So it makes numerous positive effects to the state law, and we're very happy that those changes were made and look forward to continuing to work on the issue. Today's an exciting day for those who have worked in trying to address human trafficking in Arizona, and we thank everyone for their support and continued work on this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I neglected to mention earlier, we have Debbie Johnston, who is the president of the Valley Hotel and Resort Association. We're thrilled to have her here. She participated on the task force. Obviously, a lot of this activity may take place at some of our resorts and hotels, and they don't want that, and neither do we. And having their staffs be able to identify more readily when they see problematic activity is extremely important. So from the private sector, we're very happy to have some willing partners, particularly, again, the Valley Hotel and Resort Association. Now I'd like to introduce Chief Renteria from the Phoenix Police Department to talk a little bit about our activities here. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Being here today in this law is about strengthening Arizona's stance against human trafficking and prostitution-related crimes. It's about protecting the victims. Most vulnerable are children. Arresting and prosecuting those who prey upon them and ensuring a just sentence for the harm they've done. This new law helps law enforcement by increasing penalties against traffickers and Johns, and it addresses some of our most common online trafficking advertisements and scams. And finally, it recognizes children as victims when they are forced or coerced into this despicable trade, empowering them versus condemning them for those acts, assisting them in the long term with recovery and rehabilitation. This law is a step in the right direction by placing those who engage in this crime on notice that we have some of the toughest law in the country. The Phoenix Police Department, along with our other law enforcement partners, are fully committed to aggressively and proactively disrupting these organizations and doing everything within our power to discourage sex trafficking, prostitution, and the violence associated with it here in the Phoenix area. Lastly, I encourage everyone that if you see something, say something. You may be saving a life. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Black. I'm the police chief for the city of Glendale, and it's my pleasure to be here this morning representing the city of Glendale as well as the men and women of the Glendale Police Department. I want to thank Vice Mayor Waring for his leadership on this issue, and specifically Senator Farnsworth for introducing this important legislation and sponsoring the bill, as well as the entire Arizona legislature for voting the bill. Governor Brewer, your leadership is demonstrated with the creation of the Task Force on Human Trafficking, and your commitment to assist communities in combating this important issue is confirmed by signing HB 2454 into law effective today. I've been in law enforcement for over 30 years, and during different points of my career, I've investigated or participated in the enforcement of issues surrounding prostitution and solicitation, so I thought I had a good understanding of this. So about a year ago, some community leaders, many of which are in the room today, approached me because of this thing we have coming next February, Super Bowl 49. Of course, Glendale will host the game. And they wanted to invite me to the leadership and the conversation about human trafficking, changing the language around what we commonly refer to as prostitution. I think this is a very important aspect to raise the awareness and educate the public. And so over the course of this past year, not only did I become better acquainted with all of the complexity of the issue of human trafficking and the sex trafficking business, but I've had the opportunity to share that information in my community, around the state, and in some very unusual places. We joke that we don't get invited to lunches and dinners anymore because we talk about this. Once you see it, you can't look away, and that's very, very important, I believe, for our community to know, that while you can make the connection to major sporting events, including the Super Bowl, it's not limited to that. It's occurring in our communities every day, so we can't look away. It's important for us to confront this issue, and if Super Bowl gives us the opportunity to discuss it and gather all of these people here today, then so be it. With the introduction of this law, as well as the ongoing efforts of state, municipal, government leaders, nonprofits, education institutions, and of course faith-based, we can begin to change the understanding of human trafficking. We have brought the issue out of the shadows and begun to dispel the myths that traffickers have relied upon to maintain control over their business. So calling it what it is, trafficking, an exploitive, controlling, violent, and crime, now a felony, begins the process of holding the right people accountable. We now have the opportunity to seize assets through racketeering statutes, which has proven to be an effective tool in addressing other crimes. And as importantly, we also identify girls and women as trafficking victims and recognize the importance of providing them services. So I'll close with a message to those whose desire fuels this industry, the individuals who create the demand. Whether you come across the country or down the street, women and girls in Arizona are not for sale. And as for the excuses you've gotten away with for years, if not decades, in Arizona, we're not buying it. Thank you very much.
Well, Mayor Stanton convened this task force, and I think all Phoenicians should be very grateful that he did so and put such a focus on this enterprise. I think he had the next speaker in mind. Savannah Sanders is a victim, and she's going to share a little bit about her story. Savannah?
So my name is Savannah Sanders. I'm a survivor advocate here in Phoenix, and in 2003 was the reauthorization of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. In 2003, it was when I was trafficked here in Phoenix at the age of 16. Today, when I talk about trafficking, when I'm sitting next to somebody on a plane or in a grocery store line, which yes, I talk to them about trafficking then, I still get an overwhelming response of, is that human smuggling? Does that have to do with our borders, or is it only happening in Thailand? And I'm a perfect example of it happening here. I wasn't kidnapped and taken across borders, although I really believe trafficking has no borders. I lived here, and it happened to me here. In 2003, there were no victim services for underage trafficking victims, and there were no laws protecting us. We were often taught by the men and women who trafficked us that we needed to run from the police and run from social services and not look for help or anything like that. And that was huge. And because of the way the laws were, and because of our perceptions around prostitution and not seeing victims as victims, it was very possible for us to get picked up by police, taken to jail, and charged with different charges. And the person that would be waiting for us outside of jail were the pimps themselves. So we have came a really long way in the last 10 years. And I've been working in anti-trafficking for the last 6 years, and I have seen huge momentum and huge movement that I'm so proud of to be a part of, and so proud of our police officers and the city of Phoenix taking the initiatives, listening to survivors' voices, and being a force to be reckoned with. I know how important it is for survivors to get the support and love that they need. I was able to get it in my own life. I've been able to finish my degree. I've been able to raise 4 beautiful, amazing children. I have a job that I love, and I have a life that I love, which I never thought was possible. And I feel like with the momentum that we're making and the changes that are occurring, we can really bring the freedom to other survivors that I've had the opportunity to feel myself. Thank you so much.
The Arizona Foundation for Women has been a tremendous partner in this effort, and I'd like to introduce Sara Pressler.
Good morning, my name is Sara Pressler, and I serve as the CEO for the Arizona Foundation for Women. I was raised in rural Arizona, and I'm proud to say that this bill and this initiative is a statewide initiative, as is the Arizona Foundation for Women. We create a better life for Arizona's women and children and invest in 3 key areas: safety, health, and economic empowerment. We believe she counts. And from over 25 grants offered just this year alone, with support, for example, in generous momentum from Southwest Airlines and Jackie Thompson, the Halley Foundation and Diane Halley, Deborah Karstens and the Karstens Family Fund, Sarah Suggs and the O'Connor House, Nancy Baldwin and the Hickey Family Foundation, and Kathleen Wynn with the Arizona Attorney General's Office, AFW continues to make investments and collaborate on Arizona's Not Buying It, because when our community invests in the Arizona Foundation for Women, the Arizona Foundation for Women invests in our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our aunts, and our grandmothers. This is an issue that affects me, and it's an issue that affects you. For 2 decades, the Arizona Foundation for Women has been proud to invest in statewide initiatives for domestic violence and anti-trafficking efforts. We're proud to collaborate on Arizona's Not Buying It. Our kids are not for sale, and our state of Arizona is not buying it. Thank you.
As parents, there are some things we don't even want to imagine.
Like human trafficking of girls and boys as young as age 12.
An estimated 100,000 in the U.S. each year being sold for sex.
It's difficult to talk about, but it's time we all take action.
Because these are precious children, our children.
When it comes to human trafficking of children, we want the world to know.
We're not buying it.
Arizona's not buying it.
For more information on how you can make a difference, visit aznotbuyingit.org. It's more real than you know.
It's happening all around us, and Arizona is no exception.
The youngest and most trusting members of our state
are falling victim to sexual exploitation and trafficking.
It's time that criminals who purchase sex from children know that the secret is out.
And Arizona's not going to stand for it.
It just takes ordinary people being informed,
standing up,
and making a statement.
So when you tell me
you didn't know,
we're not buying it.
Arizona's not buying it.
For more information on how you can make a difference, visit aznotbuyingit.org.
We want to thank the Diamondbacks for hosting us here today. We particularly want to thank the Warners and the members of the other sports teams and Mark Lewis for participating in this activity. Obviously, saw those are pretty powerful messages.